Who are you? In the first place, a human being, which is to say, a being possessed of no greater faculty than free choice, with all your other faculties subordinate to it, choice itself being unconfined and independent. Next, consider the gift of reason. It sets you apart from wild animals. It sets you apart from sheep. By virtue of these two faculties, you are a member of the universe with full citizen rights. You were born not to serve, but to govern, because you understand the divine order and its pattern. Now, what does the title citizen mean? In this role, a person never acts in his own interest or thinks of himself alone, but, like a hand or foot that had sense and realized its place in the natural order, all its actions and desires aim at nothing except contributing to the common good. Therefore, philosophers rightly say, if a good person knew that sickness, death, or disability lay in his future, he would actually invite them because he realizes that this is part of the universal plan and that the universe has precedence over a constituent and the city over any one citizen. But since we don't know the future, we're justified in sticking to things that are preferable by nature because this, after all, is our instinct from birth. Next, remember that you are somebody's son. What does this social role mean? It means regarding everything of yours as belonging to your father as well, always letting him have his way, never trying to hurt him with your words or actions, or griping about him behind his back. Defer to him at every opportunity, and in the same spirit, cooperate with him as best you can. Next, know that you are a brother. This role also calls for deference, respect, and civility. Never get into family fights over material things. Give them up willingly, and your moral standing will increase in proportion. Make a gift of your box seat in the theater or a bit of food, if that's at stake, and see the gratitude you get in return. How much greater it is than the sacrifice. Finally, reflect on the other social roles you play. If you are a council member, consider what a council member should do. If you are young, what does being young mean? If you are old, what does age imply? If you are a father, what does fatherhood entail? Each of our titles, when reflected upon, suggests the acts appropriate to it. If you go off and yell at your brother, my reaction is to say, you've forgotten who you are and what you stand for. I mean, if you were a metalworker who fumbled with his tools, you would have lost touch with the metalworker you once were. If you forget what it means to be a brother and become your brother's enemy, don't think you've made a trivial exchange. If you are transformed from a decent social human being into some mean, snarling, dangerous beast, is there no loss involved? Or do you have to lose money before you feel penalized? Is losing money the only loss that counts with us? If you lost the capacity to read or play music, you would think it was a disaster. But you think nothing of losing the capacity to be honest, decent, and civilized. Yet those other misfortunes come from some outside cause, while these are your own fault. Moreover, it is neither honorable to have those other abilities nor dishonorable to lose them, whereas it is dishonorable to lose these capacities and a misfortune for which we have only ourselves to blame. An adulterer does away with a just, decent, and honorable human being, the good neighbor and citizen he might have been. A sorehead incurs one kind of loss, a coward another, but no one is bad without loss or penalty of some kind. Now, if you look for their penalty in terms of money, you might find them all safe and scot-free. They could even be helped and rewarded for their offense if they gain by it financially. But if money is your only standard, then consider that, by your lights, someone who loses their nose does not suffer any harm. Yes, they do. They're maimed physically. But what if they are deprived just of the sense of smell? In other words, isn't there an associated psychic faculty which is good to have and a misfortune to lose? What do you mean by psychic faculty? Aren't we born with a sense of fairness? We are. If you destroy it, is there no harm? Is nothing sacrificed? Don't we lose something dear? Don't we have an innate sense of honor, a sense of benevolence, a sense of kindness and compassion? Well, if someone willingly parts with these sensibilities, do you suppose they go unpunished and unhurt? Well, does that mean that if someone wrongs me, I shouldn't hurt them in return? First of all, look at what wrongdoing is and remember what you have heard about it from philosophers. Because if good, as well as bad, really relate to our choices, then consider whether your position does not amount to saying something like, well, since that guy hurt himself with the injustice he did me, shouldn't I wrong him in order to hurt myself in retaliation? So why don't we actually picture it to ourselves this way? Instead, we see injury only where physical or financial loss is incurred, whereas if the loss stems from our own choices, then we don't suspect any harm has been done. After all, we don't get a headache after an error in judgment or an act of injustice. We don't get eye trouble or stomachache. We don't lose property. And for us, those are the only things that matter. As to whether our character will remain loyal and honest or become false and depraved, we don't care about that in the least, except insofar as it comes up for examination in school. The result being that our debating skills improve at the cost of our character.